Thanks for watching. Last video you have seen me unbox this Axial SCX10 version 2. This is the AX90060 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited CRC. So this is the new 2017 edition. Now I've gone over all of the stuff that's new and whatnot. I'm not going to get into that again. Did get a lot of comments about the body. Some people are really not too happy with the way that it looked. And this video is just to show you that if you get a tiny bit creative, put in a tiny bit of time, it's really easy to modify it. So this is the exact same truck. This is the stock body that you get with the truck. And I will just walk you through what I did to make it look like this. I didn't film anything in the process. I took, I believe, 4 or 5 pictures in the whole process, because I wasn't sure if it was going to turn out the way I wanted. I think the first step that you need to consider once you do decide to take on a project like this is that you may just completely mess it up and you will end up losing the body. Now, if that does happen, not that big of a deal, because there's plenty of clear bodies out to tackle that problem. And if you weren't happy with the body to begin with, then you won't be too sad in losing out on that body. So the body that comes stock with it is very red, and it has then that those 3 side windows. So it's basically full-sized 5-door Jeep, 4-door Jeep, whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to have something a tiny bit different. I don't have a lot of Jeeps. I just have a Jeep shell on my, or a JK shell on my Axial XL. Maybe you remember that, a bit of a blast from the past. And I wanted this thing to look a tiny bit more rugged. So that's where you just need to go get creative, see what you have laying around. Keep it as cheap as possible, because I think if you add everything that you see over here, if you add it all up, spend maybe 50 bucks on it. So it's not costly either to go ahead and do it. First thing I did, you got that line on the roof, where in a full-size Jeep you'd be able to take out those 2 panels that sit in the front. So I cut it along that line, and then I just decided to sort of like move that entire rear section of the roof, move it forward, see if I could make that work. Now, when I first installed it, wasn't too happy because it was a tiny bit too wide. So I took it off again, and I actually made a split down the middle here just to be able to tuck it a tiny bit and make it look a bit better. So what you end up with is this. Cutting it, don't use a Dremel, don't use Lexan scissors, all that stuff is highly overrated. Just use this, one of those scalpels. I think everybody has these laying around. Really easy, just make your first cut, then do a second pass with some more pressure. So you score it, and then eventually you snap it. And that will give you a tiny bit of an idea of where you want to end up. If you do need to do some sanding, use one of these, or I use one, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I use one of these Protoform sanding blocks. These are really handy, I think, also to get some of the sharp edges off your Lexan. What I ended up with then is, well, of course, a huge gap over here in the back, and I needed to tackle that as well. So what I did then is I selected an interior panel. Unfortunately, I did not have any of the earlier JK bodies laying around. I know that Matthew Cat from the Scale Builders Guild, he installed his previous Rubicon shell, cut the sides off, installed that as an interior. Harley did that as well. I think he actually came up with that idea with an internal roll cage. Looked super cool, but I did not have access to one of those. So I needed to see what Proline actually has available. They got a couple of interiors, and this is their oldest, most known one, which is the Cherokee one. That's also the one that I used. It's not super deep, so they also offer one that's slightly deeper. That's this one. Great interior, but it doesn't fit, and it's a tiny bit too wide for this specific truck. They also have, in case you run, for example, a classic C10 body, they also got like a classic interior. Really cool, so I'll be painting up one of these as well to put in my Bronco. Get a tiny bit sidetracked there. So I used the back section of that Jeep Cherokee interior and just hacked that up. And I put that in inside that the gap, just to fill that up a tiny bit. That's also when I decided that I did want to have a spare wheel. Now, of course, in a real life truck, this would not be accessible, but it does still give me that extreme clearance in my approach angles and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty important as well. Now, you can, of course, put this on the outside. I decided to tuck it on the inside, use some double stick tape. Then the rest of the truck, I stitched that back together with some strips of Lexan that I had as a cutoff of that interior. Used some hot glue first just to get like a quick tack, and then after that I just filled in all the gaps with some shoe glue, let that sit for a tiny bit so you get like a flexible joint that won't break apart anytime soon. Yeah, after that installed the interior panel, because of course there was a bit of a gap going on, so I used the rest of that Proline Cherokee interior just to fill in that massive gap. And then I started to decide what I wanted to do paint wise. Really simple. Started peeling all of the stickers from the sides, also from the hood. I'm not sure if you remember, maybe I can pull up a close-up of my previous video, but this used to be black. Wasn't really feeling that. I had an Axial logo, which is of course understandable, but I wanted to have these sections in black. Also these vents previously, they were stickers. Wasn't really feeling those either. There were some vents here as well as a sticker. So I took those off and I actually put some real vents in there with some mesh. Then I proceeded to paint the grille in silver anodized aluminum. Made the headlights a tiny bit smaller on the inside, took the whole grille section out, or the grille section, the radiator and the headlight cluster, that's like one big part. Painted that silver just to get like a tiny bit more detail going on in the front. This is a Proline light bar. Of course, in racking up the cost, I didn't consider this one, but I thought that would be like a nice fit. Of course, it's also a perfect place for a winch on one of these CRC bumpers. I tucked it in as far as possible just to make sure that I got even more of an approach angle. And well, that's about it. Put some stripes on the side, painted the roof black, put an Axial logo on there. And that's it. Now, not completely, because in the back over here you see a cage. And those who have been having a lot of Axial trucks in the past, you will perhaps recognize it. That's actually the front half of a dingo cage. So this is a dingo body. And I just took the whole cage out. First I considered using the back part, so that gives you a bit more of an angle, so that would make it 45 degrees. Would perhaps also look cool, but in this case I wanted to have something that came up a tiny bit steeper, also to clear that spare wheel. So I just popped 4 holes in the back of my roof over there. On the inside put some shoe glue, put 2 screws through the bottom. Installed all the lights back in there and whatnot, and well, there you go. So all of these plastic accessories like the mirrors, the door handles, also the hood latches, well, the grille and the headlight clusters, all of that stuff, these tail lights, all of that comes in the box. So I think, well, what I really want to say here is, if you get it like a tiny bit creative, just put your mind to it. Take your time, as always, when painting or when doing up one of these cars. Just take your time and take it step by step, and you will be able to pull off some result that looks completely different from, for example, a ready-to-run body. I will also link a video of how I repainted my Cherokee body on my other SCX10 version 2, how I repainted that one initially. I think it just shows that Axial gives us a really nice base to work from, and with a tiny bit of creativity and a tiny bit of an effort, you can really make it your own. Well, that's that. I'm gonna take this thing out on the trails right now. Still haven't run it. I have no doubt that it will perform exactly the way I want. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments box. If you want to have more information about the Axial AX90060, and again, not this version, but the version that you see in the box, go check out the link in the video description box. If you want to be ahead of what I'm doing over here on YouTube, Instagram and Facebook, links are also in the description box, and I hope to see you around. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Greatly appreciate it, and well, I hope to see you in the next one. Take care, bye-bye.
Back on.